Greetings everyone, my name is Etterville, and welcome to the finale of my Let's Play of Hovership Havoc. I'll be picking up where I last left off with the laser blaster, and defeat the spider boss and beyond. While this is going on in the background, I'll be providing my final thoughts on this title as a whole. I'll first start out with what I like and work my way down from there. First and foremost, the controls are responsive. I did not have any issues with dropped inputs or anything in that front. The hoverships did take a short while to get a handle on, due to their higher than expected inertia and lower base engine power, but after a few upgrades, they became easier to pilot. Talking about the ships, the Pulse Cannon and Devastator are fun to play, especially the latter one. I enjoy sniping enemies from afar using the former, and shotgunning enemies at close range with the latter. In fact, I still recommend the Pulse Cannon for newbie players. The Plasma Gatling's fun to use, but you need to acquire several levels in order to realize its potential. It simply melts bosses with its Gatling gun. It's the best boss destroyer out of the bunch. Sadly, the Laser Blaster I feel is the worst one out of the four. Its spread shot causes issues when dealing with faster moving smaller robots. You have to get close to enemies in order to optimally destroy them, but unlike the Devastator and Plasma Gatling, the ship doesn't start out with a higher base speed. So getting close to enemies without already having upgraded the speed or damage stat is risky. By being the jack of all trades, the Laser Blaster ends up being the worst ship, and requires the most investment to shine. I got the hang of its playstyle eventually, but I don't recommend it to novices. Nevertheless, I like how each of the four ship classes offers its own playstyle that players must contend with and build around. Onto what I feel meh about this title, the graphics are serviceable. However, there were a few scenarios, mainly in the industrial zone, where the red enemies were hard to distinguish from the environment. Plus a few times in that same zone, it wasn't obvious what were impassable obstacles. The music of this game is okay but forgettable, the one exception being the penultimate level's BGM. That is the best track in the game, by far. On the gameplay front, I wish the four ship classes had more diversification between each other. As in, not only varying the move speed, shot rate, damage, shot range, and shot spread, but also the health pools, armor, and perhaps special abilities too. On the topic of abilities, I didn't find many of them useful. Some were very handy, like the super rocket or rotating drone, yet the main factor holding back most abilities is the long cooldown period. I wouldn't mind a long cooldown period if most ability impacts are large like the rocket, but most abilities don't function like that. I like the ideas behind many of them, but they need some rebalancing. Most of them feel like weak supplements to my primary weapon. Now, if I could equip multiple special abilities at a time, I'd be okay with the longer cooldown periods. On the note of upgrading, I like how you can easily reallocate stats before each run. I like how there's both meta progression with EXP and levels, and per run progression with the orbs. You can start a run during a later level, but you lose out on the orbs you could have gained in early levels. Though for the upgrade screens, I want the game in the future to display the raw absolute stats instead of just relative bars. For instance, how much does upgrading health by 1 affect the raw health total? Same with some of the other stats like speed, damage, shot range, and shot spread. Now, onto what I didn't like or wasn't too keen on with this title. I feel most ships start out too weak, necessitating some grinding or more evasive maneuvers. It creates more problems for the Plasma Gatling and the Laser Blaster though. The Devastator and Pulse Cannon can hold their own very well until level 3, and once you get past level 3 somehow, the final boss encounter isn't too difficult. If there's one change I would make in this area, it would be to buff the speed and or weapon cooldown rate of the slower ships. On a related note, there really needs to be more time to react to enemies spawning in. The amount of time between the on-screen indicator that an enemy is going to spawn in and them actually spawning in is too short. So if you're playing as a slower ship and you're overlapping that indicator, more likely than not you're going to take a hit there. And it's because of those things, frankly, I feel this game's levels are biased towards faster or longer range ships. Faster as in faster firing or more mobile, which mostly disadvantages the Laser Blaster. And this brings me to my biggest problem with this game. Overall, I feel there's not enough content or variety between runs. There's not enough enemy and level variety. There are only around a dozen enemy types and 3 distinct levels. In fact, I noticed area and enemy wave repeats during my 3rd run and onwards. I expected that to happen during my 8th or 9th run. This game really needed more than 3 levels, more bosses, and the inclusion of mini-bosses. For example, we could have gone through a manufacturing plant, a forge, warehousing district, defense systems, etc. For bosses, there could have been more than just 3 large robots that stay stationary, perhaps a mobile adversary, perhaps one whose attacks are more difficult to dodge. For this game's scope, I would have desired at least 5 levels, perhaps level splits, more difficulty options, and perhaps post-game content. On the note of bosses, all the boss levels are easier than the preceding enemy arenas. This was especially the case for level 3, the facility's core. That was a marathon level for this game's standards, and there's always one or more enemy waves during this level that pose a problem for any ship class, which I find appropriate as it's the final level. But you reach the final level too soon, I'd say, and if you're not skilled with this game, most of the time you spend is essentially grinding, which I wouldn't mind too much, but as I just said, level arenas and enemy wave patterns have a tendency to repeat after a short number of playthroughs. So in essence, the game gets repetitive after a few runs, and it lacks enough content to justify its $10 price tag, particularly when comparing it to other games in its genre. Now, I want to see this game succeed. Despite all my critiques, I enjoyed my time here. The base ideas and core gameplay loops of this game work. However, what it needs the most is more content and variety surrounding these systems, as right now it feels too bare bones. Remember, for this kind of game, where you need to complete multiple enemy arenas and survive for long enough, gaining experience and currency along the way, dying somewhere in the middle, upgrading your stats, and repeating the cycle from the beginning until you complete the game, content and variety is king. Repetition outside the core gameplay loop is something to be minimized. Otherwise, players will get bored fast. As it stands right now, I feel most players will gravitate towards 1 or 2 ship classes, complete the game using them, and then won't come back to this game. Summing up all of my experiences up to this point, I found Hovership Havoc to be okay. Well then, I thank you all for watching my Let's Play of Hovership Havoc, viewers. Once again, I thank the developer of this title for providing me with a key through Woovit so I could Let's Play this. If you enjoyed this Let's Play series, please rate, favorite, comment, and or subscribe, as they all really help out the channel. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter as well, as I regularly post updates there. Well then, I thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you all in a future Let's Play.